I remember last fall, Jim's, our youth coordinator, and myself were out fishing at Clearwater Lake. I'm not telling you the exact spot because I don't want to give away that fishing hole, but it was on Clearwater. And all of a sudden, a huge wind came up from a big dark cloud. And where we were pretty calm before, all of a sudden the waves and the wind were just against us. So we carefully pointed the boat into the waves and we slowly made our way back to the dock. It took maybe 25, 30 minutes, and it felt like a couple hours. And I really think that when Jim's got back on the dock, he kissed the wood a little bit there when he finally got there. He was definitely praying. And I just think we've all hit those storms. Sometimes it's been on a lake. Sometimes it's been in our own families, in our own heart and minds. Storms are part of our lives. And so just that image that we too are called to point the boat into the waves and to move ahead slowly. So what does that mean? Well, we know there's ways of pointing the boat sideways to the waves. That's when we say, to heck with it, and we just start drinking and drinking. Or we decide to gamble and gamble, or have an affair, or whatever it is, it's like the boat sideways to the big waves. It ain't gonna end well. So we need to again and again point the boat into the waves. That means, as always, we pray. We bring it to God. We invite Him into the storm. We make that conscious contact with our God. That's, again, a basic thing. Also, part of it is that we have some play in our lives too, as strange as that is. COVID has made this more challenging, but I tell you, our ping pong table has gotten a great workout over COVID time. We need to keep some playing, some exercise that needs to be part of our keeping our boat into the waves. Whatever works for you, tiddlywinks or whatever it is, but something that is play and exercise. Basic things like eating and sleeping, to have good meals, to sleep not too little, not too much. Those are ways of keeping the boat pointed into the waves. Basic things. Another thing is watch what we're watching. I don't know about you, but sometimes I look at social media or the news, and it is not good for me right now. It puts my mind back in the wrong place. So I just have to watch what I'm watching. So often it's spiritual reading that I know I need to be doing some of it. And so one of the books that I really felt about 5 months ago, God was asking me to pull off the shelf, is called Ministry in a Messy World. It's made a lot of sense the last few weeks. I'll talk a bit more about that after. But just whatever it is, think of yourself. Are you keeping your boat pointed into the waves? Just the basic things you need to do to keep it that way. The second thing is going slowly. We're not supposed to be just drifting back, and we're not supposed to be plowing ahead full bore. It's not the time in a storm to make big decisions. Just keep going ahead as you need to. Go forward slowly. So that's sort of things that God asks us to do in storms. But what does Jesus do? I think that's really an important question for each of us. In that first reading, it's very honest in the book of Job. Everything is taken from Job, his family, his health, his money, everything. And at first he handles it pretty well. He says, naked I came into the world, naked I'll go out again, blessed be the name of the Lord. But as the suffering goes on, kind of like COVID goes on, he starts to get mad at God. And finally, he rants at God, what are you doing? How can you let this happen? And in that first reading is God's response to Job. Where were you, Job, at the first sunrise. I was there. And God just reminding Job, you're very small, I'm very big, but it's an honesty in the relationship. And we too need some honesty with God. In that gospel, they're in that boat, and this boat is swamping, and they don't just say, Jesus, can you do this? They say, don't you care, Jesus? They're mad at him. And so Jesus responds, he can handle that, and he calms things down. So this Ministry in a Messy World book, one of his examples I thought was really good around, he talked First Communion of his son. And again, First Communion, it seems so unmessy. You have these little kids dressed up as angels. It seems so nice. But in that, his First Communion time, they were going through a messy divorce. And that weekend of the First Communion, there was lots of arguments and fights and words you don't hear in the Bible. And the morning of the First Communion, there was police and lawyers, and it was a mess. And he talks about sitting in that pew with his son at Mass and all these nice things going on, but his mind just all in the storm. That's what our faith is about. Not just incense and flowers, but God is in our storms. He's not afraid of the storms. He often works most powerfully through them. So this last week, there's an Indigenous woman that we talk from time to time, and so we were having a conversation, and she said, you know, when I first heard the news about the 215 children's graves at the former Kamloops residential school, she said, I just cried for 3 days straight. I couldn't stop crying, and I just wept and wept. And then after 3 days, I felt so good. It's like I grieved for the little girl I was, and I'd let something go. Something was free in me again. Now, I'm sure that's not the experience of everyone, but I pray it would be, that there'd be a healing that can come in these storms. So I just invite you at this time again in your own storms, how to get your boat pointing into the waves, move ahead slow, and invite Jesus' grace to be at work in your storm, my storm, all our storms.